BCPAP. And what the BCPAP does is essentially provides right amount of oxygen to premature babies. Every year, more than 400,000 infants and neonates die because of premature and not having the right amount of oxygen. This product essentially saves and bridges this gap and eliminates this issue of babies dying just because of not having the right amount of oxygen. So with a patented technology, this professor identified Revital, and specifically Revital in Kenya, to manufacture this life-saving product. There are manufacturers in China, there are manufacturers in India who could also do the same thing. But why Revital? And one of the reasons why I highlighted is not only are we strategically based in Africa, but we are also problem-solving companies, which is eliminating a lot of issues that we find in Africa, which is killing a lot of people. So that's the reason why this professor approached us and was able to give us the licensing opportunity in association with Wilgrow Africa to produce this product. In fact, we've received a grant from this, and by the first week of July, we should have our prototypes up and running and be able to now sell to the rest of the world. So just that was a brief overview about Revital. I'll be open up for any questions, Wilfred.
Thank you. Don't mind, you can mute. Thank you. It's a bit of background. So I'll ask two questions so that we can move to the larger panel. So I'll limit it to two questions. One is around the bias, right? Africa has been known as a recipient, not as a producer. How are there challenges overcoming that bias, not just globally, but also even within the country, where you see a lot of people prefer imported? I mean, there's that perception that if it comes from Europe, it's better. If it comes from China, it's better. How are you overcoming this bias issue, mostly locally and then globally?
That's actually a very excellent question. So when we started off Revital in 2008, a lot of people told us, you're not going to be able to compete with China. You're not going to be able to compete with India with the prices and the quality that we have. 13 years down the road, we've proven to manufacturers in India and China both that we're capable of manufacturing high quality medical devices in Africa at affordable prices. In fact, that's our motto: high quality medical devices at affordable prices. Before we entered into the market, and I'll give you one example and one example only, the vaccine syringes that were manufactured by Revital. Before we entered into the market, the government of Kenya were procuring these vaccine syringes for $15 a box of 100 pieces. When we entered into the market, we dropped the price down to $6. $15 from Europe to $6. That's the amount of savings the government has earned. And this is just one product I'm talking about in the whole portfolio of products that we have. If you look at the amount of products that we manufacture, the amount of savings that the government can receive by just procuring from local entities. And I want to express this greatly because Ugandan government buys about 10 to 12 products. Tanzanian government buys about 10 to 12 products as well. The Kenyan government up till now has only procured about 2 different products that we manufacture. And what we want to insist is we want the support from the government. We want the support to expand our product range and ensure that we are self-reliant and independent from countries in China and India as well.
So what I'm hearing is, if you build, they'll come. That's what I'm hearing from you. The second question is on other innovators that, setting up a facility like that with all those certifications, it takes a while and it also takes a lot of investments. Borrowing from the story of Value, where you have had this collaboration with an inventor who has built a product and then licensing to you to manufacture, what would you tell other innovators, inventors on this call in terms of opportunity to partner with a manufacturing facility like yours? How is it an open door policy? How do you evaluate? Just expand a little bit about that opportunity.
Absolutely. That's actually a good question too. So I know there's a lot of young innovators creating cool new products in the medical field or in any other field right now, and they need an avenue to launch themselves. Revital is just one company in Kenya who is accepting proposals from anyone, whether it's not any field, but it has to be medical field related. But Vayu and Wilgrow is just one example we're doing a partnership with. We've got several other partnerships along the way right now, where within the next 1 or 2 years, we'll be able to launch these new products that we want to do. There's a couple of new companies in Kenya. Gearbox is one of them. Such a cool company. In fact, I got a chance to visit them and their facilities. Amazing institution and what they provide in terms of incubated programs for young innovators. That's one of the ways that young innovators can approach as well.
Thank you, thank you. I would like to welcome now the rest of the panelists back and to answer some of the questions that might have come. I don't know, Nick, if you have access to the questions.
Yes, I do. We had a question from Marianne. Shai has already beaten us to it by responding in the chat, but I think it's worth opening up to the rest of the panel. She says, great summarized presentation, highlighting room for strengthening regulatory frameworks and key networking as well. But how much linkage is there between local manufacturers and R&D from academia and research institutions, both public and private?
Yeah, so any panelists, please feel free to respond to that question.
I think I had started off, maybe I'll clarify a bit of what I was saying about language. I think one of the challenges we have, and I know Roneek will attest to that, is that when innovators meet industrialists, you may not be coming from the same space. And I think that's what organizations like Wilgrow can help with, because the innovator is usually a scientist, somebody who's working in a lab or some sort of inventive space, but the company or whoever is trying to buy it is a capitalist, so to speak. It's just a businessman trying to work on different numbers, and so sometimes you need somebody to try and mediate that conversation. A lot of innovators think they have found the next thing since sliced bread, I think is the phrase people say. It's the next best invention since sliced bread. But the investor is always thinking about, will anybody buy this? What is the risk? What are the challenges around it? And how do I get paid back? So someone to negotiate that space can tend to be one of the big challenges that we have. And also matching expectations with what is possible.
Maybe if I could also just add on to that a little bit, and a lot of times when we talk of private sector and academia, we think private sector has to be these big companies, Philips, Becton Dickinson, GE. Vayu is literally a startup. It's Professor Thomas Burke with maybe 2 more people, and that's it. So sometimes we are looking for the big and we miss the small. And as I was saying, in many cases, starting small, you really can't escape it. But staying small to me is a crime, given the massive market opportunity and the capacity, as Roneek has really very eloquently put it together with Mushai. So how do we start small? How do you take your idea? How do you create a startup? And how do you partner with the intermediary organizations? And Wilgrow, we are there, anything on medical devices and diagnostics. It's, as a scientist, that's my area of expertise. But also you get the benefit of, the other guys, Wilfred and all these MBA people, smart guys who know how to make money. So bottom line is, yes, you do need intermediary, but start small. Don't fear the small, don't ignore it. Everybody started small. Even GE was at one time just somebody in a lab.
Yeah, the other question, and I think this is for you, Robert, is the Innovators Forum having a pipeline of investable companies in healthcare space? Yeah, do you have a pipeline? I think this must have come from an investor, interested investor in the room.
We have a growing pipeline, and I think Roneek has already just mentioned about a partnership we've done as Will Grow with Bayou and Revital Health. And I think also there's an opportunity for investment in the device you just saw in Mushai's presentation. One of the things that he highlighted is that they need to go into clinical studies. It's going to require some money to do that. So I think there's lots of opportunity. And the other thing is to highlight again that we're not just trying to create a talk shop. We want to really build this community so that if you are on the Innovators Forum, you can check out on the BOBA platform and just say, hey, who's looking for funding, or I'm an innovator, I don't understand how to do how to develop a clinical trial protocol. And members within that community are able to say, hey, I'm here, I can do that. Or maybe I'm stuck on, and I think Roneek can tell you, getting ISO 13484, hey, it's not easy. WHO pre-qualification. QMS is just a whole other animal in itself. And we need to have the community that can bring together the consultants, the financiers, the practitioners, all of us, in a way that we can easily find each other. So to me, the more we're able to leverage technology, and I think BOBAP is a good place to start. Just set up a small profile, say this is what I do, say this is what I'm looking for. And then the rest is, engage and let's see how we can make sure nothing gets stuck.
Thank you. Maybe one more question before we wrap up. This one goes to government. So this goes to Kerema. I think after the story of Kevevapi and other experiences of, it's a question of delayed payments, right? If you supply, especially now going to county, it's even taking longer to get paid. Are you going to get paid? I think that's a concern. If you work with government, I mean, why work with government if the payment might take a year or more? Maybe you might want to address that in terms of initiatives in place to fast track this procurement process. Julius, are you still there? Yeah, it seems like we lost Julius.
While we're waiting for Julius to come back, we have had another question come in from Francisca, which is an interesting one, talking about the availability of subsidies being offered by government for local manufacturers. So perhaps beyond government as well, additional subsidies that can help support local manufacturing.
Yeah, I think that also would fall under Julius, but Mushai and any panelists, please, you can.
Yeah, I think I can answer your first one as well about payments and so on, and that does go to the ease of doing business. And what I highlighted, that we work on trying to make a policy and practice environment that makes it easier for businesses to operate. Actually, just this week, the Competition Authority released what we call retail regulations. So those are some of the things we were very actively involved with in trying to make even payment, even in the private sector, to improve, where this was mostly around supermarkets and manufacturers and their suppliers. But it is a cultural thing that we need to work on and grow. I think even as Roneek was talking about the price that Kenya was paying for its syringes, and the fact that he's able to sell to other countries but not our own, does go to the big, the big elephant in our room in our country is still corruption. And we need to work on it as a country, find solutions that will work for us, because I think it's not a government issue. The people who supply or participate in it, it's a cultural issue. It is both public sector, private sector, even in the civil society sector, it's still an issue. So it's something we need to work on as a country and say we need more clean, open business. And things like IFMIS and other procurement systems like KEMSA has tried to implement, they do help by putting some light into these things and help move things forward. As far as subsidies go, we do have some programs like under the Kenya Industrial Estates, which is not quite a subsidy, but you're getting maybe some space, some room to do some innovation and so on at low or no cost. But still, it is very minimum. And we find that it is actually driven towards low-tech innovations, not necessarily high-tech innovations, which is what you'd be looking at in some of these biomedical things. Well, some of it need not be very high-tech, but again, it's a bit more sophisticated than what is available. And of course, we've talked about, I think one of our sponsors here is Gearbox and other such incubators who are trying to put things together so that people can try these things. But it is a challenge. It is a challenge getting subsidies and funding at the beginning, especially. We have been, like I said, also on the taxation front, we have been asking government that can we create some sort of tax holidays for the SMEs, for the people who are starting with innovations? They get a little bit longer tax holidays. But in fact, in Kenya, we've been going in the reverse. We used to have an investment deduction, which was 100%. In the first year, it's been reduced to 50%. We now had minimum tax. Luckily, KAM and a couple of other bodies have gone to court and had it suspended for a while, but it looks like it will come back still. So, while the government is still keen on it, we're still going to fight about it. But so it's all those taxes that can help startups to be able to have a little bit of run on cash flow.
Thanks a lot. So I think one more question, and then we go to closing remarks. We are just we have 9 minutes left to the end of the event. So there's a question here to Roneek, and maybe Roneek, as you answer this, you can also give your closing remarks right after. So the question is, what is the manufacturing capacity available for diagnostics at Revital Health? And for example, can you do lateral flow chromatography for rapid kits or molecular tests? Maybe speak a little bit to that capacity, and then also.
Thank you, Wilfred. So currently our capacity is edged at 500,000 kits per month. We're looking to expand this production to about 2 to 2.5 million units in the next 6 months per month. So per month, we're doing 500,000. In the next 6 months, we're looking to do about 2 million to 2.5 million units per month. And this is going to be a range of RDTs. So not only COVID antigen test kits, but we're also, as I mentioned earlier, we're looking at malaria, dengue, H. pylori, several other test kits. As part of my closing remarks, one of the fears that we have as local manufacturers is not the amount of support, is basically the right support from the government. As I mentioned, we manufacture 44 medical devices, but Kenyan government only procures 2 medical devices. That doesn't really show the focus and the strength in the government in emphasizing local manufacturing. There are subsidy programs. For example, when you bid for KEMSA, there's preferential procurement in terms of prices by 20%, but that doesn't essentially help factor in local manufacturing, essentially. You cannot always be 100% competitive with China and India. You have to take economies of scale into place. And due to these reasons, we need to look and focus on what is currently being manufactured in Kenya and work with the manufacturer on a personal basis. Hey, we need this product. We need it as ASAP tomorrow. What price can you afford to us? Payment terms, etc. We're, as Revital, we're willing to work with the government. We mentioned before, and I still mention on this platform as well, we're welcome to sit with the government one-on-one and come up with a program or an initiative, not only through Revital, but through all the other pharmaceutical manufacturers in Kenya and medical disposable manufacturers in Kenya. Why not procure from local manufacturers? You're creating employment, direct and indirect employment. You're spurring the economy, which is what we currently need right now. We're benefiting the country by bringing the name of Kenya into the limelight. Being one of the only manufacturers in Africa for various products puts Kenya in the limelight, and that attracts foreign investments from multinationals around the world. And as I mentioned earlier, competition is healthy. We want competition. We want competitors. We want to make sure that we can fight with the competitors to bring the prices of medical devices even lower than what it is right now. So within Kenya, within Africa, competition is definitely healthy, and just getting a collaboration not only with Kenya but even the neighboring countries as well, because that's one of the challenges that we see. We have to, when we enter a new country, we have to register our products. This takes anywhere between 3 to 6 months and thousands of dollars. As you mentioned earlier on, getting WHO PQS is not an easy job. We spend at least $400,000 a year in the various certifications that we have. This is just money going to certification. This money could be utilized to expand my product range to now manufacture 50 products or 55 products. If Africa can get together and say, open up a open border policy where you do not need to register, bring your products in as long as it's manufactured in Africa, I guarantee you Africa would be the next continent where all these other continents are looking to procure from. Thank you so much, Wilfred.
Wow, that's a nice parting shot. I think what I'm hearing is harmonization of regulatory. I'm also hearing streamlining procurement and having, having one-on-one with government, especially the agencies involved, the procurement entities involved, people like KEMSA and others. And I think that gives us a hint on who we should bring to the roundtable that Robert will be organizing. We can bring some of these people so that we have these candid conversations, right? It's not about bashing, but more of talking together and collaborating, and that's the spirit. The next person I'd like to invite on stage to give their closing remarks is Moshai Konyiha. Please, Moshai, welcome.
Okay, thanks, Wilfred, and thanks also to the Real Grow community and everyone who's out there. I think the need for us to be innovative is clear. And perhaps one I would just like to reemphasize is that the solutions we need, and I think I like what Roneek was saying, they want to focus on things like malaria. Because for Western big pharmaceutical companies, malaria may not be considered a big issue because it's not something that is affecting their societies. So we have our own societal problems that we can address and deal with. And so that need for innovation is important for us to do. And then now after that is to build the innovation infrastructure, because it's not just about having clever people like Dr. Karanja and so on who can come up with things. It's about what is what's the whole infrastructure around it. Again, like I said, the example of Revital is good. If they've taken 8 or 5 years to get all these approvals, similarly, we need all our regulators and so on to get the approvals so that we are building this infrastructure that is going to enable us to have a platform that we can innovate off in the future. The important thing, you may not have it today, the important thing is to start, so that we start on it and we build it, and we will have it in 8 years as we get there. And I think the people who are here, because of the jobs we need to create in our market, the industrialization that we are looking forward to, it is not, I would say, something optional for us. It is something we must engage our minds into as we move forward. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And now I understand why you are the chairman of Kenya Association of Manufacturers. I think you're lobbying very well, and you have their interests at heart. And I think some of the attendees here should soon be able to join CAM when they start manufacturing. So Roneek, you help us to manufacture, and then Moshai helps us to join the same lobby group and continue advocating. Otherwise, the change will have to start with us, right? We can't wait for government. We have to be the change that we want to see. I'd like to check whether Julius has made it back and to give us his closing remarks. If not, I would like Robert to give his closing remarks, and then we bring the show to an end.
Thank you, Wilfred, and thank you, panelists. Thank you, our participants. I think this has been a joy to be a part of. And for me, I think I constantly keep saying, we need to venture. We need to take a bit of risk. And the way to deal with risk is to start small. You don't risk big time. You risk small time. So the startups are an incredible part of this process. And for for those who are actually creating the solutions, the innovators, the inventors, being able to package it in a startup is the really next important step that you must take. And once you do that, you're up and running and you're ready for business. So my encouragement is, let's not just think private sector academia in terms of the big players. We love big players like Revital Health, but even Revital Health started somewhere. And if you also give the story of how they started, you'd be thinking, wow, actually that is accessible. We do that. And with time we get better and we become well bit with Revital Health. And I believe we can be able to create so much more in terms of those success stories. So I'm looking forward to our continued conversation and engagement as members of this Innovators Forum community. We really would love to, if we were to have another session like this in a year's time, in 2 years' time, in 3 years' time, start seeing a growing membership within the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. So, Mushai, I am building your pipeline of membership. and I'd love to, so I consider you the big leagues. As we grow, as we mature, we find ourselves now seated with in that bigger club. But let's, this is execute the immediate steps. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robert. I think we are at the top of the hour. It's amazing how fast the 1.5 hours has gone by. And these were very rich discussions. We've seen people who are there doing it. We're not just talking. We've heard from Roneek himself. And today I hear there will be something on the news about the shipment from Revital that is going to Europe. So please tune in. And when you watch the news, you say, oh, I was with him in the panel. I was with him in the webinar. So and tag him on the social media. Same with Mushai and Julius. Let's continue taking the conversation offline, or rather online, on our social media, or Twitter handles, and different channels. And as Robert said, this is the first of the many to come. So we'll keep growing and hope to see the same people that participated today. We hope to see them in the next one, and even in the round tables. So mine is to thank you all for your participation and to bring this show to an end. Thank you.